I'm assuming at this point that you have purchased or are about to purchase an LED lightsaber from one of several different manufacturers, and I wanted to help you a little bit today try to figure out what do you do with it. There are multiple things that you can do with a lightsaber. On one end of the spectrum we have things like shelf queens, which is a term used within the lightsaber community for a very pretty LED saber, usually costing a whole lot of money, that you put on a shelf and you don't do anything with. Shelf queens can cost up to $7,000, $8,000. If that's what you're going for, great, it's a lightsaber as a collector's piece. Some of you are also probably looking at lightsabers as costume pieces, the accessory for the cosplay outfit that you have, or the Halloween costume if you're more seasonal. If either of those are where you're going, you're not going to find yourself using your lightsaber very much. If you do intend to use your lightsaber, here are a few things that you can use it for. First, let me deal with the idea of saber choreography. If this is your goal, you will want to be part of a group that strives to create believable fight scenes like the ones that you see on the movie screen. These groups often deal with light contact. Since you are choreographed, you are probably not going to hit each other too very hard, and advanced protective gear is probably not required. Accidents do happen, however, so you should be prepared to get hit once in a while. Choreography groups usually use mid-grade blades, which is a lighter grade blade that's available from most lightsaber manufacturers. It hurts less when you're hit with it, it's lighter, and it'll stand up perfectly well to a lot of what you're going to put it through in saber choreography. Choreography groups are sort of an extension of cosplay. It's a performance art, and it usually uses a notation system designed to determine who is swinging in what direction, who's blocking, and which direction the action is flowing. If you're going to be part of one of these groups, the ideal saber is a saber that is pretty and bright. It can have sound effects if that is what you wish, but if you're not going to have a bright saber, you could also use a day blade or a colored blade. Many saber manufacturers offer these. Next, let me talk about dueling. If dueling is your goal, then you will probably want to find a group of people or a dueling group. If you're in the US, there is Terra Prime Lightsaber Academy, and more prominently in most areas, the Saber Legion. These groups are somewhat informal, though they do have waivers. They meet, they have rules that are established, and usually marshals for bouts. You can certainly duel informally on your own, between you and a group of friends. But if you're really going to get into it, these groups are out there, they're available, and it's a good way to keep yourself from causing too much damage and to have a lot more fun in the process. If you're going to be dueling with a lightsaber, you have different concerns. One is safety. Most dueling groups require some form of head safety, like a safety mask used in fencing, or at the very least, eye protection. They also usually require hand protection, like motorcycle gloves. Some groups, like the Saber Legion, require things like shoulder and chest protection, and most of them require cups for obvious reasons. Saber dueling groups will require that your lightsaber be able to take some damage. Usually a rather plain hilt, often a stunt setup, which does not include sound. You can certainly use sound, but fewer internal parts means fewer internal parts that you risk breaking. A lot of lightsaber groups are going to use heavy grade blades. These do not illuminate quite as well, they're a little bit bulkier, but they are less prone to break. And if you're doing lightsaber dueling, you are going to be having contact with the lightsaber blades. Now let me deal with solo use. The previous two options discussed were ones that would require more than one person. You have to have a formal or an informal group in order to choreograph fight scenes or to participate in dueling. Should you not have either of these, or should you prefer to take things on your own, there are options that are available to you. The first of these I will refer to as a Dueling option. This is martial arts based. It's similar to performance wushu or kung fu. It can be solo or it can be competitive. The purpose of it is to get you familiar with your weapon, to properly develop your skills. Some people use it as a meditation or flow art, and I'll cover that concept in just a little bit. In terms of process, any martial arts or staff form can be done with a lightsaber as opposed to the sword or staff that you would usually use. Alternately, there are groups like Terra Prime Lightsaber Academy or New York Jedi, and many others who have created their own forms. These forms are based on martial arts to a greater or lesser extent. Some are rooted within the Star Wars universe and some are not. The requirements on a saber for this sort of practice are very light. There will be no contact involved, so your saber can have fancy internal parts, sound, and extra features. You're not going to have to worry about banging it up too much. Usually a mid-grade blade is better, as you won't be experiencing full contact. The extra illumination and the reduced weight is going to be in your benefit. Finally, let me deal with flow arts. Whereas the Dueling that I discussed previously was basically a martial arts-based technique, flow arts is almost entirely performance-based or meditative. The idea of flow arts comes from circus arts as we know it today. It can contain martial elements, but the purpose is not to articulate or to develop martial skills. Whereas in the Dueling, your movements and the familiarity that you establish with the lightsaber itself can be translated into dueling. With flow arts, your goal is more about the movement itself. Flow arts are generally spinning heavy, and it's focused more on what looks interesting and the establishment of patterns or styles of movement, rather than actually anything about strikes or effective combat. Now there is a lot of overlap between all of these processes, and people can certainly pursue multiple paths. It is true that what you do on your own can increase your skills with what you do with other people, dueling or choreography. It's also true that what you learn in choreography or dueling will shape what you do on your own with the duelings or with the flow arts. So what do you choose to do? You don't have to pick one, but it does come down to your resources. How many people do you have? How much time do you have? How much work do you intend to put into it? And what are your goals? You should shop around for a saber that is appropriate to the goals that you'd like to accomplish. In the next several videos, I will be dealing specifically with the solo use. If dueling or choreography is what you're interested in, then I highly encourage you to get out in your neighborhood and find and/or start a saber choreography or saber dueling group. There's plenty of them around, and if you search the various forums, you will find links to groups that may exist within your area. For my videos, I'll be focusing on what you can do on your own. Most of that is going to be flow arts, but some of it will be based in the semi-martial duelings discussed earlier. Specifically, I will be targeting Neman. More on this in future videos. Hopefully this video has been of help to you, and please join me back for other ones as we progress more into lightsaber use.